Hey guys, this is another video for our How to Do Stuff in Japan playlist. When you buy things in Japan, there is a tax applied to it, a sales tax. Some countries it's called a GST, some countries it's called a consumer tax. In the UK they call it VAT, value added tax, but basically it means that the government adds a tax to everything that you buy, goods or services that you buy. So what that means to you if you visit Japan is that you have to be aware of whether prices include tax or not, because you can get caught, particularly if you're on a budget. The tax at the moment, it used to be 5%, and then recently they changed it to 8%, and there's talk of them changing it in 2015 to 10%, which is being debated, but it's probably inevitable. But at least at the moment it's 8%. So that can mean quite a difference, of course, if you're on a budget and you see a price and it turns out that you've misunderstood it and it ends up being 8% more expensive, could end up catching you right out, messing up your budget. And one of the problems that we have in Japan with this tax is that, of course, lots of countries have taxes like this, services tax, goods and services taxes, but a lot of them have regulations to make it really clear so the consumer, so the buyer knows exactly how much something is and whether it includes the tax or not. And so lots of countries are very strict about that, and they'll tell the shop owners that they either have to show how much the tax is, or they have to, if they only show just one price, that price has to include the tax. So if you go, that means that the customer won't get caught out. So if you're in a shop, you see a price written on something, you can assume it includes tax unless it says otherwise. And that protects the customer from getting ripped off or getting confused and being surprised when they get to the cash register. Unfortunately, in Japan, they haven't regulated that, or it appears they haven't regulated that. And the way it's applied is really, I'm trying to think of the English word. The Japanese word's bara. It's really sort of all over the place. It's really all over the place. There's all sorts of different ways that it's applied. Usually in sort of reputable big restaurants and things like that, restaurant chains or big restaurants like that, usually on the menu it will have the price in big numbers, and then usually in brackets after it, it will have a higher price, and the higher price actually includes the tax, which is sort of pointless really, because you have to pay the tax. So having the lower price, the price without tax in bigger numbers there on the menu really doesn't mean anything to us. The only price that really means something to us is that higher price that includes the tax. So it's a bit of nonsense really. It's just a bit pointless. It's pointless. You can't have it at the lower price. You can't have it without the tax. So, but at least you know. So if you go to a restaurant, and that's the purpose, because this is a how-to video, the purpose of this is to help you understand how it works. So when you go to a restaurant here, or you're going to a shop here, and you see the two prices, or one usually bigger number, like written in bigger numerals, and then you see another number that's higher, another amount that's a higher amount, it's the higher one. So when you see the two prices on something, it's the higher price, basically. That's the price that includes the tax, and that's the price you're going to pay when you get to the cash register. And that's the other thing that can catch you out too. If you've only got enough cash in your pocket that you've allowed just enough to buy something, and you get to the register and you find that it didn't include the tax, then you can get caught out. So if you see the two prices on something, you know that the higher price is the one that you're going to be paying when you get to the cash register. Something like a vending machine will only have one price written on it, but of course it's a vending machine, so that's the price that you'll be paying. So when you put the money in, if it says 150 yen, it'll be 150 yen. What can really catch you out is there seems to be nothing in the Japanese law that stops shop owners just putting one price, but it happens to be the price that doesn't include tax. And here's an example of that. Now this thing that you're looking at now, this piece of paper that you're looking at now, was actually in quite a big nursery that sold plants and flowers and things, and this tag was on a flower pot, and as you can see, it's just got one amount written on it. Now, because it didn't have anything written on about tax at all, we assumed that that was the price including the tax. But of course, once we got to the register, we found that no, they hadn't included the price in it at all, which is a bit, in some countries that would be illegal. In some countries where they have goods and services taxes, it would be illegal to do that, and it feels unethical. It feels, as a customer, it feels unethical. If you see a price written on something and then you get to the register and it's actually more than what was written on the item, it feels unethical. It feels like you've been tricked. So that's why we made this video, actually. That particular example. Now, that's not the only time we've seen that. You'll also sometimes see that on the internet. Sometimes on the internet that you'll see a price, and the problem can be too that we're not saying that those companies are dishonest or intentionally trying to deceive you, but we're just pointing out that this is a trap in the system that could catch you out. And the same thing goes on the internet. The same thing goes on any sort of price list where you see a list of prices for some goods or services in Japan. It might be a hotel room, or it could be anything like that. And if you see a big list of prices, what they sometimes do is, in small writing at the bottom of the page, it'll say all prices don't include tax. And so they're telling you, but the problem is, unless your Japanese reading level is really good, you might not see it, or you just might not see it. Even if your Japanese reading level is really good, it might be in small print at the bottom of the page and you might not see it. So you just don't know. There's just so many different ways that this is applied, this tax is applied and marked on different goods and services. You know, in the shops, on the internet, on menus, on all sorts of price lists. It's just not consistent. It's not consistent. That's the word we're looking for before. It's not consistent. It's a real mess. So our advice to people who are coming to Japan is, if it has the two prices and you can see that it includes tax or it doesn't include tax, then you know how much it's going to be, and that's all good. If you only see one price on something, then you're safest to assume that it doesn't include the tax. So if you're in a shop and you're looking at something and it just has one price on it and it doesn't mention tax at all, then probably what you should do is just assume that you're going to end up paying, well, it's 8% more, but that's, unless your maths is really good, that could take you a while to work out. It's easy just to add 10%. So if you're looking at something and it's 5,000 yen, just assume that when you get to the register it might be 5,500. If you're not sure, if you're looking at one price on an item or one price on something and it doesn't mention tax at all, just assume that you're going to have to pay 8% more when you get to the register, and just do that calculation in your head. Look, it says 5,000 yen, it's probably going to be 5,500 or 5,400 in actual fact. It's probably your safest bet, just so you don't get caught out. That's why we made this video, is because we know there's a lot of people that come here and travel here on a budget, and that, if you stay in a place for a week and it's going to cost you, whatever it's going to cost you, it's going to cost you 10,000 yen or Juman, 100,000 yen, $1,000 or something, and then it turns out it costs you $1,100. We know there's a lot of people that would get really messed up by that, so that's why we made this video. So that's your best bet. Just assume that you have to add the 10% on, or the 8%. It's 8% now. People who live in countries that have these taxes will tell you that it's inevitable they increase. It's just a really easy way for governments to increase revenue when they have a goods and services tax. It's just too easy. Increase it by 2% brings a huge revenue in for a government, so it's probably inevitable. The Japanese government's arguing it at the moment because obviously it's not going to be popular, and it's going to slow down the economy and all other sorts of ramifications. So yeah, people don't like it. It messed us up. They only increased it from 5% to 8% recently, and it affected the economy and it affected a lot of people. There's a lot of people saying they were going to buy something and then they decided that they wouldn't because it had just increased in value by 3%. So it's sort of inevitable to go up to 10. So anyway, we hope that somebody found that useful, and that if you are coming to Japan, just keep an eye out for that trap, because it's not intentionally a trap. Again, we're not criticising the companies or anything. We're not criticising anybody. We're just pointing out to you guys the way it is, so that you can just be aware that this system is inconsistent, so you don't get caught out by it. That's all we're trying to do here. More videos coming soon.